ला 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 चांद सिफारिश जो करता हमारी देता वो तुमको बता शर्मो हया के पर्दे गिरा के करनी है हमको खता जिद है अब तो है खुद को मिटाना होना है तुझ में फना dance with me baby won't you dance with me all night won't you party 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 won't you burn the floor all night प्यारे प्यारे लम्हे प्यारी प्यारी बातें where's the party tonight दुनिया में लोगों ने दिल अपने फिर थामे आया हूँ लेकर मैं फिर कितने हंगामे मुझको पहचान लो मैं हूँ डॉन
I would say a poignant experience today because in 2009, the absolute legend that is joining me today performed at the Royal Albert Hall. And I remember watching him as well. It was in the summer of 2009. And I was so in awe because I've seen him and I don't want to say grown up listening to him because I just an age spin to it, but he's been with me. He's been the voice of our life. And it is so wonderful to have the legendary Shaan with us today on Filme Shilmy. Shaan, sir, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, I feel like this introduction wasn't as strong as it should have been, but because the
No, no, no. This introduction, of course, from your end was very strong. At the same time, that show that you mentioned at Royal Albert Hall, that show gives me nightmares every time I think of it because I was very unwell and under heavy medication, and I really didn't. I mean, such a beautiful moment for me. It was such a big occasion, but I was so lost through the whole show. I didn't know whether I was coming or going. And so, yeah, that is a regret that, I had this wonderful opportunity, but I couldn't quite, put out my best that night. I was very, very sort of I was literally drugged.
oh bless you. Well, look, let's zap to the present day. I
Yeah,
mean, you've been
sure.
so busy with so much happening. I mean, you did very well in Brown on Z5, by the way. I absolutely loved you in that. It was so comforting. I think the word is comforting to say to sort of see you in that. And at the same time, you performed at Anandam, and Anandam was received so beautifully as well in India. It was a theatre show. I mean, talk talk to us about your zone as an artist right now because you've been so busy with so many different things.
Well, yeah, when you're not really sort of, how do I put this sweetly and yet not sound kind of self-piteous? But, when you're not doing that one big thing, you end up doing a lot of interesting other things. And I think that's a great way to go about in life because that way, you get to experience so many, different aspects of yourself. So you dabble in a little bit of acting. You create a live show experience that is different from what one is expected. You move out of your comfort zone and you try different things. And of course, Anandam was clearly one of those because growing up in a very typical I don't know if you're well versed with Mumbai, but Bandra is a very typical a Christian sort of primarily a Christian area where we grew up wearing our crosses and praying to Lord Jesus. It doesn't matter which religion you followed at home. It was the kind of, atmosphere around you. So I didn't grow up with a very strong, pious or devotional or rather ritualistic religion. Though of course I'm proud to be who I am. But, I never grew up learning shlokas or mantras or singing bhajans. So when the offer came around for Anandam, of course, I mean, that's been a long time. And since then, now, of course, I also have a Stapit Mandir in the house. My wife is, of course, extremely, religious. And so, of course, all this started coming in a little late in life. But at the same time, when I actually experienced the bliss of devotion and of devotional trance when everyone comes together, that was something that was very new to me. I've never done a devotional show, I have sung bhajans in the past, but I've never really performed them like that. So it felt really amazing. It felt like, you know, it felt different. It felt like this is something I was missing.
Oh, that's amazing. But I think this is what music is, though, isn't it? I feel like it is something which is internal. And if you think about it, hymns and bhajans, it's all about singing and not just praising the divine, but it's also a way to connect with the higher power, right?
Very
And
true.
I think it's such an internal thing. But it's really interesting though that you mentioned this. And I was thinking about your voice because obviously this interview was happening and I was kind of just going through all the songs that have you've sung over these years. And what really stands out to me, Shaan, sir, is that I think you came at a time when, you know, you were not reliant on indie Hindi film playback singing per se. You kind of had your own indie pop kind of legacy already established before you kind of got more mainstream
Sure.
opportunities in the film industry, right? And it's just amazing how it's almost becoming that cycle is now spinning on its head now, where I'm seeing more of the resurgence of the indie pop over Hindi film playback singing. So I think for
That is
you,
true.
you
That is
look back at your when you began, um, how important was it for you to actually really establish your own way of singing rather than necessarily relying on the mainstream traction and opportunities coming your way?
Again, it goes down to, roots and growing up and your formative years, what has influenced you, listening to a lot of, rock and pop music, and of course, I had the classical roots at home. My father, composing and singing and, creating music for Bollywood films. So all that kind of created a certain sort of a preference for the way I wanted to sound or the way I wanted to come through as an artist. Which at that point, in the 90s, the kind of songs that were coming, I couldn't personally relate that much with that. I found them a little more, in fact, regressive compared to what we were doing in the 70s. 70s, the music was there's so much experimentation. There was such modern, takes to things, and then in the 90s, it somehow again went back. Of course, the 80s was a boiling pot of all kinds of things that was happening. There was, in one point, there was disco, but again, at the same time, there were, those very, music influence from the south of India kind of sounds that were also very popular. And came the 90s, it went back to the sweet melodies, where the rhythms were simple. And I felt that, I could probably, what I where I come from, I could contribute a little more than what kind of songs are actually being created today. And then just to my luck, things just fell on my lap, and this whole indie pop invasion, so to say, happened, and I became one of those, one of those in that army. And we got to sing songs that had, that whole little Western influence in terms of the production, and also, the kind of poetry that we sang about, a little more English. It was more sort of young and contemporary. So it just fell into my space. And I thought, yeah, I'm not going to wait till I get a film offer. I'm going to join the indie pop brigade and make it mine. So
And
that's really what happened.
it's interesting because I want to amalgamate whatever we've spoken about just now. When we talk about divine timing, when we talk about growing up, the influences that you just mentioned about hearing your father as well, and uh, it's I mean divine timing one because I've been listening to Tanha Dil quite a lot recently. It's been a song that's been on my mind, and I feel like it really resonates in today's day and age when we talk about self-love and when we talk about finding strength within, especially in today's day and age,
Sure.
because we live in a much more lonelier society. It
Sure.
resonates so strongly. So that's the divine timing aspect of it. Now coming to the amalgamation of everything.
Right.
Shan, your voice has this very wonderful quality because there's a traditional Indian sort of quality that's there, but then it's also modern in its appeal. Yet also
Right.
it's not emulating the sweetness is very different from what we've heard in that era, especially when you began with like when you had Udit Narayans, you had the Kumar Shanus. You were not
Right.
any of that. You just had your own distinct quality. And It's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, what was it? I think for you, I think when you were breaking through as well, what were some of the observations that people felt about your voice at that time? And how do you think that sustained? Because it's also incredible how Saif Ali Khan and your voice actually mirror so beautifully as well.
No, that is true. That is true. I think, Ken, we have to just go back to that phrase that you've coined so beautifully, divine timing. I think it was all about divine timing. The very first song I sang, which is not for a big film, but Musu Musu Hasi, it was a sweet ditty, wasn't like. And the next thing you know is that that got popular. And what happens is nothing, like you say, succeeds like success. So once they say, oh, this guy comes in, he sings one song, and the very first song becomes this huge hit. Then he sings Wo Pehli Baar, that becomes massive. Then, whatever he's singing, and then Tanha Dil comes in. So, you know what, they just felt like, oh, you know what, we don't quite we can't really put this voice in a particular box, but it is mainstream. The voice is not so sort of it works with the actors, be it Saif or be it whoever I sang for. It wasn't a very very odd voice. You know what I'm saying? So no one really cared whether it sounds like whether it is another extension of the Kishore Kumar school of singing, or is it a connection of the Muhammad Rafi school of singing. It seems to be working, so let's get this guy to sing for us. And I think it's all divine timing. Sometimes your stars are just aligned in a certain way. And also before that, the whole indie pop thing, that taking off, the remix songs that I did on that, even those worked. So everything I was touching seemed to be kind of taking me somewhere. And the most beautiful part of the whole thing was there was nothing like a song or one that thing that just shot me into limelight. So everything was another stepping stone until say 2004 5, where suddenly I realized, wow, I'm in one of those top spots, and I don't even know how I got here.
It's so beautiful, though, honestly.
So I
And
think, like you said, divine is the word. There was some kind of, you know, I would like to think, I lost my father early, and my father was a very, very, very. He was a genuine talent beyond anyone I have really, come across, and he deserved the success that he didn't get. And I think somewhere that divine timing or the divine connection could be him, or what was meant for him that came to me. So I'm a big believer in destiny, believer that whatever is meant to happen is meant to happen. Be it, I mean, that's how the Gita tells us to look at life. But I mean, I hadn't read it then, but I think somehow I kind of I believe in that. Also, uh, yeah. I mean, just do your thing and hope that it works for you.
it's amazing. Honestly, do you know what? This is so beautiful. And I feel like I think just even hearing it from your perspective, I can just imagine how life would have been for you. And it's interesting though, isn't it, Shaan? Because I do feel, not to quote Rockstar, but I think it's kind of true though. I feel like टूटे दिल से ही संगीत निकलता है. I do think that somewhere as an artist, you have to be at a spot where you're kind of broken and you're vulnerable, because only then it kind of gives you that whole sense of Eden, that sense of fueling to kind of really go in depth and really express. Because I feel, and I spoke to Shreya about this as well, Shreya Ghoshal about this, where I feel, because you as a singer, right, you're portraying that character's emotions, right? Especially when it comes to the playback singing aspect. So I think for you, you've had, like, I mean, just to spotlight 2006, because obviously it's a big year that we're all celebrating this year. I mean, you've had such numerous releases. You had the Mehu Dawn, you had a Fanaa, you had a Chan Sifarish, which again, texture-wise, are so different. And then you also had a Where's the Party Tonight, right? Three songs that have a very Indian but modern feel to them, but yet the textures are so different. One has a mystery in them, one has a villainous, almost pantomime-ish feel to it, and the other one is literally just let your hair down and go crazy disco. So, I think for you, when you spot, especially if we spotlight these three songs in the 2006 era, how did that impact the characters, or the storylines really impact your craft internally as an artist as well?
Oh, I may be one of the last of those singers who had an opportunity to actually play back, in the sense that, very soon what happened was lip sync became a thing of the past, and songs are mostly just in the background score. But I took it very seriously. If I'm singing for a certain artist, I wanted to make sure that my voice would kind of match somehow. And of course, sometimes, especially when the composers or the filmmakers, they don't really care so much about it. They just want you to sing the song that it kind of works. But it's as a singer, as a creative person, it's something that you kind of just want to meddle with. You want to say that, oh, if I'm singing for so and so, I'm going to sing like this. I'm going to sing. And what it's kind of turned out now when I look back is that when someone there are so many artists that can be easily mimicked by other artists or mimicry artists. I have still to find someone who does. As I was saying that, the idea for me always was never to sound like myself. The idea for me was let the song lead the voice. So, if I'm singing a rock song, I can't be singing it in my soft, mellifluous voice. If I'm singing a sad, melancholic song, I can't be singing it with the whole, joy. But at the same time, we can touch on that point when you mentioned about there should be something that's broken, that's something that is hurt. And I come from a space where the voice can only heal. The voice does not need to be damaged for the voice to sound a certain way. The voice has to have a certain healing quality to it. So even if I'm singing a sad song, I'd like to throw in hope. If I'm singing a boisterous song, I'd still like to throw in some sort of sanctity, not make it sound crass or make it sound terribly sort of I don't know. Sometimes you can make it sound very rudimentary, like very. I can make it sound like the guy's a bad guy. I'd like my characters to be heroes. They have flamboyance, but yet they are charming and they're caring. So that is something that I've always tried to push into my voice when I sing. I know that a lot of people really love that quality where a voice brings out sadness, but somehow I hate it. I think there is enough sadness any which way. And
True.
when you're listening to a song, it should pull you out of that. It should not push you deeper into it. It should not make you want to wallow, want to celebrate, you know, celebrate melancholy, celebrate sadness. I'd like to think that, you're down, listen to me, I'll push you back up. That's always been a thing back in my head that I can't be pushing people into, feeling more low.
Right.
So that's a block. I know a lot of people love that, but I can't do it.
No, I mean, th I think that's probably what does stand out as your USP. It's like even Tanha Dil, right? It's like it doesn't matter what happens, I'm gonna still
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, yeah. The
I
hope has
mean,
to be there.
hope has to be there, and I think that's definitely something which is very omnipresent in your songs. But I think the three songs that I did spotlight in my question, I think that I would love it, Shan, because I know you probably get asked about it a lot, but because we are celebrating like what 20 years of Krish, no, of Kabhi
Yeah,
Alvida Naa Kehna, sorry, Fana
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and Dawn as
Lots
well.
of movies. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
I,
those were times when I was a part of almost every film. But yeah,
true. I
but
was
yeah,
looking
yeah.
at your
You want
list
me
and I
to
was like,
sing any
my,
of those songs
I mean,
or all three?
you know what? I mean, I wouldn't be so greedy, but since you've asked,
Okay, okay. I'll do a little bit of all of them. So let's start with, of course, la 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 la. चांद सिफारिश जो करता हमारी देता वो तुमको बता शर्मो हया के पर्दे गिरा के करनी है हमको खता जिद है अब तो है खुद को मिटाना होना है तुझ में फना सुभान अल्लाह सुभान अल्लाह that part is Kailash Subhanallah. But anyway, so yeah, that's so much a part of the song that I couldn't help sing that part, of course. And then there was, of course, dance with me, baby. Won't you dance with me all night? Won't you party, party, party? Won't you burn the floor all night? प्यारे प्यारे लम्हे प्यारी प्यारी बातें where's the party tonight. And the third one you mentioned, of course, दुनिया में लोगों ने दिल अपने फिर थामे आया हूँ लेकर मैं फिर कितने हंगामे मुझको पहचान लो मैं हूँ डॉन.
oh, brilliant. I could literally just remember. I remember watching the promos of this song. OMG. It was insane. So
Ah.
when we see,
This song, I really got it wrong when I was singing it initially. And thanks to Farhan Akhtar, he came to my rescue and he said, dude, you probably are missing a point. He's saying the guy is Don. He is not an imposter. So sing it like you are. You are the guy with all the attitude and all the, Tuniya me. I had gone a little logo ne. I was, "Man, who Don?" I was in a different zone trying to like prove that I am Don. He said, no, no, dude, just sing it very casually. Sing it like, you got this. So, yeah, so I remember that.
and it's interesting. And I was saying about the different textures. Like, see, where's the party tonight again? Because you had worked with Karan Johar 3 years back before then in
Right.
It's the Time to Disco, right? So in a
Right.
way,
Right.
you're
Right.
with Shankar Ehsaan Loy again, you kind of that was their composition
Yeah,
with
yeah. We were on a roll at that point, doing like song after song. I remember I came back from a show, from a live show, and I was there, and I was a little embarrassed because I was late, and everyone was there, from Javed Akhtar Saab to Karan Johar and Shankar. Very sweetly, Shankar made up for me. He said, "Oh, look, 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 look! Shaan ekdam party wale kapde mein pehen kar aaya, taki he gets in the flow. Come on, come on, come on, get into the studio, get into the studio." And he rushed me in, and before they would be like, "What is this? We've been waiting. Where the heck were you?" kind of thing. He got me to dub quickly. So yeah. So the camaraderie with Shankar Hassan Loy has been fantastic. With all my composers, I've generally been a composer singer. I never really, like you mentioned Karan Johar, or you mentioned, I never really got into, kind of going for those filmy parties or hobnobbing with the actors or the directors or the production houses. Um, just limited to my co-singers and composers. Really, that's just been my comfort space to be in.
right. And it's interesting because in Fana, Chan Sifarish, right? Like that is completely it's got this very traditional sort of uh Indian. It's a very Indian song, right? Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah. I
mysterious.
mean, the Bollywood, what you can say, like the filmy singing, which is,
Yeah. And it's like
yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of coyness. There's a lot of adhab in the song, right? Because
yeah,
at
yeah.
that point we
No, no, no.
didn't know what Rehan was, right? This was Rehan in Fana.
Right.
This was like
You wouldn't want to know. I mean, you want to
you
keep that a secret.
exactly right. So I guess see these are all sensibilities that one has to bear in mind, right? When you're
Oh,
singing
yeah,
these
yeah.
songs.
I'll tell you, for this song, I had a very, 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 what should I say, a massive brief, but it was very tricky to kind of maneuver through it all because, when Kunal Kohli, he was there, so he, without giving out much about Rihan, the character, he was like, see, the girl is blind. At the same time, he is trying to, kind of make this massive impression to her. So it has to be the vocal impression he makes to her. He has to sound genuine. He has to sound like he's absolutely and totally in love with her. Yet he has to give her an impression that he's very flamboyant. So the vocally he has to kind of impress her. So vocally, wo heroism chahiye. So and the issue also was that all this while for Amir Khan, it's been Udit Narayan. He's been singing for him for
Oh,
years.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
every time I went into the zone, I would sing Chand Sifarish Jo Karta Hamari. And they were like, dude, what are you doing? So that was another battle I was fighting for that song. Yeah.
You know what? It's so interesting. And ironically, also, if we look back, and I'm sorry to give all these anniversaries, but because there's such big ones, I have to really acknowledge. Even if we look at the silver jubilees, right? Lagan celebrates its silver jubilee this
Right.
year, and so does Dil Chahta Hai. And you've been a part of
Yes.
two very iconic songs in those two
Sure, sure,
films.
sure.
I mean, Ghanan Ghanan, right? Where literally all the
Right.
singers that you mentioned, I think, were probably in that
Oh,
song
yes. Oh, yes. And more.
and more. And then in Dil Chahta Hai,
Yeah.
obviously, it's interesting because I was listening to Wo Ladki Hai Kahan yesterday, and it's got that whole like, is it Irish or Scottish kind of feel to it, right? Like
Yeah, 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 yeah,
it's got
yeah.
the whole
It's an
yeah,
Irish folk kind of thing that has, yeah.
yeah, but exactly,
It's
but
very
yeah,
like, yeah,
but yet when you're singing it.
Mardi Gras Irish, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when you're singing it with Kavita ji, right? It almost feels like it's a tribute to the Geeta Dutt era of songs. Like
Right,
it's
right,
very
right.
black and white. It's so interesting
Sure,
how
sure,
all these textures came into play. If we could also
sure,
maybe talk
sure.
about these two songs in particular, because they are celebrating their silver jubilee, it would be lovely to take a trip down memory lane.
Nah, of course, of course. With Lagan, it was a very different experience. I remember we were all pulled up into a studio, there were quite a few voices. Now they'd already obviously recorded the main voices of Uditji, Sukhvinderji, Alkaji. They were already, of course, big established singers. This is about 2000, so I was very very new, and there were so many other voices also with me, and we were just been told random lines, and we were just singing, and it was a little chaotic. I wasn't sure what exactly was going on. I thought maybe we'll just come into chorus part, that "Ganana, ganana, giri, giri, ay, badara." And I sang a few more Abid lines, and I left, and I didn't know much about it until the song was released, and I realized, oh wow, even the first line is mine. The first line when the Mukhada starts, that uh, "Ta-na-na-na-na-na." What is the word? "Na-na-bere-bere-sega." That "Na-na-na-na-na-na-na-ni-pu-ne-ra-par." So they maintain that line of mine. Whatever the few lines that "Gana-na, gana-na, gana, gana-na, gana-na, gana." So I basically had two and a half lines in the whole whole song
Oh,
besides the main
wow.
chorus. But I was glad that I may have sung three any which way. So they kept whatever I sang.
Right.
And so that was about Lagan. And then, of course, Dil Chahta Hai, was directed by Farhan. Farhan and me, we go back as friends even before he started Dawn and everything. So Dil Chahta Hai, I remember him playing me the songs before the songs were even out, asking me, "What do you think, bro? How does this work? And do you like them?" And I was like, "Wow!" I mean, I heard the whole soundtrack, and I said, I don't know, it's very different from what's going on at the moment because it's very pop, it's very international, it's very kind of world music meets, like you mentioned, the whole Irish thing coming in. Every song had its own space. They had the didgeridoo and that Tanhai song, and I said it's a very different sound. I hope the audience accepts it, and of course they did, and the songs went on to become huge. And of course, Koi Kahe has its own story where I actually sang the lines for Akshay Khanna. I've said
Oh,
that
yeah.
many times. But then, the voice matched Saif so much that not only did they picturize my lines on him for that song, I also was flipped from "Kaisi hai ye दिल के जिस्म फूल बन के गल खिले," for which I rehearsed with Ehsan, and I was made to sing "वो लड़की है कहाँ." And
Wow.
of course, that song went on to become such a rage that I'm not complaining.
It was
Sorry, Anuj, can we make this the last question, please?
yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think someone's waiting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll come back to Anandam, I think. Yeah, with all that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anandam, definitely for sure. We'll come back to that. And then also, I think the fact that over the years, Shaan, I've seen you as a host of reality shows. I've seen you as an actor now with Brown. I think going forward, what is your mind space, I think, for you as an artist? And what do you think that will really push you further, I think? And what is it that you're definitely really fascinated to do now? Oh, you've also been a judge as well. Yes, of course.
Yeah, as in, I've never really, for me, if I'm on the fence, my answer is yes. It's never no. And, I believe that very often you make plans, but, again, divine timing or whatever, divine intervention, there are bigger plans being made for you. And very often you shut the door on your own face by, of just trying to stick in your comfort zone and saying, oh, you know what, I might not be able to do this. Like even Anandam, for instance, when I got the song list, songs I've never really sung before in public. I've never, most others had songs that they've done before because, be it Sonu Nigam, be it Shankar Mahadevan, they've done a lot of devotional functions. I haven't really, but I just thought that wow, this could be a whole new learning experience. Of course, I came out as the weak link in this concert, but I'm glad that in my own eyes, I felt that I managed to do something that otherwise would I could have easily just said like, oh no, that's not my space. I won't want to do it. And the best thing that came out of it was a song, an original song that was proposed by me to, now that the word seems to be divine timing, divine seems to be the
Mm.
word. And, this is all that Gita really tells us that, just do your thing and don't worry about you know, keep the expectations aside, just do it to your best and see what happens. And I felt that there's so many things that the Gita actually teaches us, lifestyle, not lifestyle, sorry, but life lessons that Gita has for everyone. And the shlokas, the mantras, if they're put out simply, people can learn from them. There's never been a song on the Gita.
Hmm.
So a song was actually created where my co-singer would, say the shloka, explain it, and then I would put it in song. And who but Shankar Mahadevan, all the songs that we mentioned in our interview, strangely
Yeah.
again, divine timing, were all songs mostly, right? And he composed this song, and I've sung it, and it's a beautiful song called Bande, which we're going to put out as a single, and it's a song based on the teachings and the prophecy of the Gita. So I'm very glad that through this experience, something very interesting also came through.
That is incredible. No, I honestly I saw the pictures and I read up so much about it, and I was like, I wish we could bring something like this to London as well.
Oh,
Um,
I'm sure they're looking at that. It's a huge production, so I don't know, how much, how feasible would it be logistically, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
That would be incredible, honestly, because I think it's lovely because we've got like theatre shows happening now where they're like the divine ones that are happening here, and it's coming to theatres like the Apollo and stuff like that. So I would love to get a taster of that because it's incredible. And I think it's so lovely that, India has really opened up, I think, to not opened up rather, it's always been open, but in terms of it's warming back to really embracing its cultural roots and using that as its real soft power. I think that is
True.
really important, I would say.
Yeah, I think up to a certain point, especially bhajans or religious songs are kept to a very purist audience where you can't do it with all this, big stage and all this. It had to be something that is, in a temple or within, quieter. Only certain singers who had a reputation for singing bhajans would have those, bhajan sandhyas, which were done very. But now with the youngsters and everyone, feeling that sort of alignment or that sort of energy coming from divine music, it is time that it's turning into a huge celebration. Everyone's coming in together, chanting, dancing. It's kind of become much more open to everyone and much more sort of inclusive. So that's lovely about it.
It's so cool. I've been seeing these bhajan jamming sessions as well that have been happening here as
Yeah,
well
so
with
many of them
different
happening.
things.
Yeah,
And I'm like, this is so cool. I love this because, it's true, right? It's supposed to, like we mentioned when we begun the interview, like it is supposed to connect
right.
with the higher power, right?
Yeah, and
Sorry,
if
Anuj.
nothing else, at least leave you feeling happy, feeling elated, feeling joyous,
Yeah.
feeling that little bit of that purity, which is beautiful.
Look, Bashan, sir, thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. It's been such a pleasure to have you. And honestly, a big congratulations on Anandam, on Brown, and every amazing thing you've been a part of and sharing the anecdotes and your singing. And also a big thank you to really making, I think for me growing up, a very beautiful experience and one that really has really fond memories for us to look back at. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.